Is your sourdough starter driving you crazy? Well, there's no need to do the ugly cry anymore. I'm gonna help you build a strong, active starter using just a few simple ingredients that you probably already have in your kitchen. Let's get started. Now you wanna check and see what kind of flour you have. All-purpose or bread flour would do. As long as it's unbleached, it'll do just fine as a starter. Next, you wanna make sure you have a bottle of water. Do not use any water from the tap or from your faucet. The chlorine in this water will kill your starter. Next, we need to grab a jar, something that's clear where we can see all the activity that's going on with our starter. We need to monitor for bubbles and hooch, and this should do. A scale isn't necessary when you're first starting out, but as your starter begins to grow, it becomes more of a necessity. So to start out, you only want to use 25 grams of flour in your starter. This is going to allow your starter to have room to grow. And also in the beginning, you're going to use a lot of flour. So you want to preserve what you can for later feedings. Trust me, 25 grams is enough. Next, you want to pour in about 25 grams of bottled water. Remember, nothing from the sink. The chlorine will kill your starter. Once you have your water and your flour in the jar, you want to mix them together into a sort of shaggy paste, but you don't want any dry spots. For a lid, you can just use aluminum foil. You do not want anything that's too tight. You still want air to be able to flow through the jar so the starter can grow. Now we need to find a warm spot to put our starter. Now, if your house is freezing like mine is sometimes, the perfect place to put this starter is in the oven. Leave the light on and please make sure your family knows that the starter is in the oven. Now, after you made your sourdough starter and you kept it in a warm place for 12 hours, the first thing you're gonna be looking for are bubbles. Bubbles are a good sign that your starter is alive and active. But if you don't see bubbles, don't be alarmed. It can take anywhere from 24 hours up to maybe even 3 weeks to see activity in your sourdough starter. So what can you do to speed up the process? Feed it. So something as simple as increasing the feeding frequency of your sourdough starter can strengthen it. It's almost like working out. The more you exercise the feeding of your sourdough starter, the stronger it gets. You should try it. So take a look at this starter that I just started this morning. This is only day 3 of activity. Anybody who started sourdough starter before knows that this is actually a lot of activity for only 3 days. It usually takes maybe weeks to get this much. But using the principles that I showed you in this video, by feeding it frequently twice a day and keeping it in a warm spot, whether it was in the window or it was in the oven, I was able to grow it this much in only 3 days. This is a lot. So I'm gonna continue feeding this starter using the principles. I'm gonna dump out about 95% of this and continue to feed it with all-purpose flour, unbleached, because even though we have this much activity, it's nowhere near ready for us to bake with. So I'm gonna continue feeding it. I'm gonna continue strengthening it. And then we're gonna make some sourdough bread with this one. So with the things that we covered in this video, I'm confident that you'll be able to start a sourdough starter from scratch. All you need is water, flour, and a little bit of patience. It's not gonna grow overnight, but at the same time, it's gonna grow. And once it grows, you're gonna be very happy with it.